We live in such a social media world now where there's so much more access, and that's one of the great things about this series is that we're hoping that young African-American artists and art makers will see this and go, hey, I never knew that was possible. And hopefully it'll spark something in them. So much of our industry is based on who you know, right? And that's wonderful. That's wonderful once you're in that inner circle,
right?
And people know that they know your work, they know they can trust you, they know all the things. But then that also, the other side of that is exactly why we're here. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael McElroy, and I am a proud founding member of Black Theater United. Welcome to Before the Curtain Rises, the Designer Series. This is a very special interview for me. Life definitely goes in circles, and I get the pleasure of being with this incredible gentleman here who I've known since 1991. When I did my first Broadway show, and he was the hair supervisor. He is a wig designer extraordinaire for Broadway, TV, film. And so please welcome today, Mr. David Brian Brown.
Hey, everybody.
So David, we met in 1991 on Miss Saigon, the original Miss Saigon on Broadway. And you were hair designer. Hair supervisor. And how does one step into that kind of space?
Well, I was somewhat fortunate. I mean, I guess we have to kind of back up to when my career started.
Okay.
So I'm from Chicago originally. I was in beauty school. I knew somebody who worked for the Chicago Lyric Opera. And while I was in beauty school, the opera needed people. And so a friend of mine said, hey, do you want to go there? And so I got an apprenticeship at the Chicago Lyric Opera. It's not something I thought my career was going to do. But I took the opportunity. And then I got offered a touring show that came into Chicago. That touring show was actually still on Broadway as well. And eventually the hairdresser on that show moved on. They asked me if I wanted to move to New York and take over that show. And I just had one opportunity after the next and supervising shows. So it was just ultimately it's reputation, you know, and so I was really fortunate.
It's interesting though, I want to just highlight something you said, which is, you know, an opportunity came along and you said yes. So sometimes we have these ideas about what we want to do, and it's like the exact thing, right? And sometimes we miss the other opportunities that actually are going to take you closer to the path that you want to be on, right? You were in beauty school.
Or show you something you didn't think maybe existed or were aware of.
Yeah. And so beauty school, so does that mean you were going to go into working in a salon or?
Of course, as a young gay boy, can I say that?
You sure can.
I wanted to go in the fashion industry. So I wanted to do print work. I wanted to make models beautiful and glamorous. And then when these opportunities presented themselves, I realized that I loved what I was doing in terms of with theater. And so I just stuck with that.
Well, it's interesting because we live in such a social media world now where there's so much more access. And that's one of the great things about this series is that we're hoping that young African-American artists and art makers will see this and go, hey, I never knew that was possible. And hopefully it'll spark something in them. What, growing up, did you have the kind of support to, go into beauty school? Did you have support in that way? Or when did you know that that was the thing that you wanted to do?
To be really candid and honest.
Yes.
I didn't know what I wanted to do really. And I just thought, I want to be in the fashion business. And so I was like, well, how do you do that? How do you learn what you need to do? And so I went to beauty school. It was not the top of my father's list of what he wanted me to do.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
But he still supported me. And so I went to beauty school, just kind of blindly, just fumbling. I was fumbling through life, I have to say.
Well, what's interesting about that, I wouldn't see it as fumbling. I saw it more as you made a choice and then something else happened and you said yes.
Right.
A friend said, hey, they're hiring people over here, go. And that opened another door. And then that opened the door to the national tour. And then that opened the door to Broadway. But at the same time, you were also developing skills. It wasn't like you were just kind of falling into things and not having the skill set to do it.
Right.
How did you learn the skills?
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, I learned them on the job. I basically learned them on the job. Eventually, as my career moved on, I would do outside education. But a lot of it was learning from others on the different jobs that I did.
So speaking of which, who were some of your greatest mentors? Like, who were some of the people that said, hey, I see something in this one over here from Chicago. I'm going to take him under my wing and I'm going to teach him some things?
Well, I think there's two people that gave me my first opportunity on the same job because they were co-designers, which was unusual. One was actually designing the show and one was actually designing the leading lady. So I was dealing with both of them. And one of them was Roy Helland, who happens to be Meryl Streep's hair and makeup person. And another one was John Quaglia, who was a working hairdresser in New York, who was designing the show. And so they both were my first introduction. And once I came to New York, they're the reasons I kept working, both of them. So they really extended themselves to me and, taught me the ropes.
That's interesting because so much of our industry is based on who you know, right? And that's wonderful. That's wonderful once you're in that inner circle.
Right.
And people know that they know your work, they know they can trust you, they know all the things. But then that also, the other side of that is exactly why we're here, right?
Right, absolutely.
When I think it was 2020 when our industry shut down, and a lot of things started to come to light around the lack of diversity within many fields of our industry. How was that moment for you in terms of when you saw it playing out? And for all of us, we couldn't go anywhere. We were all in shutdown, right? What was that like for you to see it play out that way and to hear from people that you might have worked with or might have known that was their experience?
Well, it wasn't surprising.
Okay.
For me, to me, it wasn't surprising. I mean, I think that I, at that time, really embraced what was happening because it was giving a visibility, more of a visibility and an accountability. I think it was a great time to move forward. And I think that some people did step forward. I think we've stepped a little back, but I think we have moved forward. And like I said, I really embraced that time because it moved me forward greatly as well, even though I thought that I was pretty educated, let me say. But there was a lot that I didn't learn and a lot that I had to unlearn. Even though I thought that I was still in a good place with mentoring other people already at that time I was, and working with people of color. It was such an awakening time. Right. It's continued to be an awakening time and a growing time. And I mean, people who have had bad experiences, I think they're valid. And I mean, I do what I can to move things forward. Right.
Well, I expect no less of you because that's why I think you're such an incredible person. But in that moment, the temptation is to resist or to defend and to deflect and say, that's not me. I didn't. But you leaned in, is what I'm saying.
I totally did.
And part of that was the development of a new initiative to bring more diversity to your field.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about what that was at that time?
Well, I mean, at that time, I had organized with a few of my different shows that were open to the conversation
Mm-hmm.
to do apprenticeship-like programs,
Mm-hmm.
and developed a program for people to come onto the shows that I had,
Mm-hmm.
and learn and be paid for it. I have to say that those never actually ended up taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did get was I had educational programs. And of course, at that time, we were doing everything on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I work really closely with a woman named Jennifer Lord, whose company is called Natural Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all my shows take these Zoom classes that Jennifer and I, though I only organized it.
Right.
That Jennifer gave, and had everybody, I would only do it if the entire company took this class. And that included the producers, it included general management, because it's not just a problem with hairdressers not knowing maybe how to take care of natural hair or the history of natural hair. But if a general manager or a producer also doesn't have some idea, you're just going to constantly, we fight all the time now, whether it be budgets or whatever it is, our needs. But if they don't understand possibly the history of natural hair, they don't have to, certainly the general manager doesn't have to know how to do natural hair.
Right.
But they have to have at least a little bit in the back of their head of like, maybe what a protective style is, what wash Sunday is, it makes a difference. So I think in some ways, I think that was really helpful. And I think it was at that time really unusual to expect management and producers to be a part of it. And they were open to it.
Yeah. No, this is great because it was a time of shutdown. And it was a time when people were trying to show, at least, that they were making the attempts. And so I love this idea that general managers and producers are on these calls, because when you're going to do a budget, right, them having some understanding of the population, the diversity that exists within the cast, and what that's going to take to support them through the process of either wig design or through, keeping up their own natural hair, all those things, they now have a better understanding. So they're not going to balk at numbers because they have a little bit more education. And that's why education about, African-American hairstyles and all the things that we have to do is important.
It's very important.
I think back to our Miss Saigon days, and all of the African-American guys used to get in trouble about getting our hair cut so short because the mics went through our hair. But there's a cultural thing about upkeep of your hair as an African-American male walking down the street. So it was never, it felt like it was being presented as we were being obstinate or defensive.
Exactly.
But it was more about culturally, we can't walk down the street if our hair is not done. You know what I mean? That we don't have our haircuts done or whatever. I'm there every 2 weeks, as you can see. You know what I mean? And so I thought about that recently as we've been doing this work, how times have changed and how that people would be more open to that conversation because they understand the culture. And so as opposed to African Americans and other people of color having to fit into something, there's actually a space being created for them.
Exactly. And that goes into, I was going to say women, but possibly men as well, having to do a protective style. I think in the past, it certainly was looked on as like, oh, she switched her hair up and now her wigs don't fit and she's being problematic, or he is. And with an understanding, you just approach it different.
Right.
You approach it different.
Right.
And yeah, if someone decides to get a protective style and she gets hair added to her waist and she never had that, I mean, that might be a little much, I mean, there has to be a balance, but in general, that needs to be allowed, changes need to be allowed.
Right.
And so that awareness, I don't think probably 98% of probably are getting in trouble, but that management.
That the industry did not.
Yeah, that the industry did not. Yeah.
So when I met you, you were hair supervisor for Miss Saigon. When did you were you already doing wig design? When did you switch over into becoming that, like being the focus?
I've been designing now 28 years. So 28 years ago, I designed my first Broadway show. Which was Big, the musical. And I, it was an opportunity. The costume designer of that show, I had worked with quite a bit, and he had said, "Hey, do you want to design this show?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Right. So, and the industry was also very different then than it is now, and it sounds silly, but even having like a hair designer on the show was somewhat of a new thing.
Yes.
A lot of times back in the day, it was the supervisor of the show, along with the costume designer, would go to a wig maker and figure it all out. So it was a little bit new, not completely, but a little bit new, to even have that position. And so I took that, and for like maybe 4 years, I did both. So because just designing a show, it takes so much time. And you are only getting paid, a certain amount of money and whatnot. So I had to support myself as a designer. I still had to supervise shows.
Okay, so let's talk about the difference between the two. So the wig designer is a member of the creative team. What do you do? So someone calls you and says, now they know you because you have your reputation, but I want you to design this show. What does that mean to you as a wig designer?
So to me, what it means is first you start off having a conversation with whoever called you, which could be the director, it could be the costume designer, it could be the actor, actually. Generally for me, and I think overall, it is the costume designer that you work, because you work so closely with them, so you create a reputation with them, and directors, but mostly costume designers. So then you say, well, what's, can I have a script? Then you get together with the costume designer and go over their sketches if they've had them, or just the ideas of how they're approaching the show. You then have that same conversation with the director. Sometimes all three of you are together. And then you might have a conversation with the actor. Generally, obviously, the principal actors you would have conversations with as well. And then you go off and you do your research, and you figure out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and put it into production.
So research is actually a couple different ways. Research of the period, meaning the hairstyles of that period, but then also what's going to work, within the show, right? Because you might be in a specific period, but those hairstyles, in terms of upkeep, in terms of what you need to do, maybe there's a fast change, whatever, that also is a different kind of research, yes? And you do both.
You do both, but your foundation has to be the period.
Right.
And that's actually something that I really love doing. It's really, again, it's just so informational because it's really broken down. You don't just look at, what happened in 1920? Because you have to take your character, and who was your character in 1920? What was their income? What was their job? Where did they live? Whether you lived on the East Coast or the Midwest or California, everything could change drastically. So if you look at that as your foundation, you're like, okay, well, this is it is. But also with the modern eye, you look at those and it's like, well, that wasn't very attractive.
Right.
And today's eye as well would possibly look at it that way as well. So sometimes you have to make actually adaptations just for the modern eye. You also have to make adjustments for, like you were saying, what happens in the show. Does it have to come off in a quick change? Does it have to double for something? Do you want it to be a different, you want to make sure it's a different color from the leading lady or the leading man? And so there's a lot of detail work that can go into that.
And then when you start to deal with like skin tones and complexions and diversity, that also plays into not just the texture of the hair that you get, but also the coloring of the hair, right?
Completely.
And do you feel like it's changed specifically post the shutdown in terms of having more access to more textured hair for wigs and all those? Do you think that there's much more of a attention to that? I know not for you because you've been doing that.
I think there's much more attention that's paid to it. I don't know if I would say that there's more availability to that actual hair, but overall, yes. It's something that in a conversation when I'm with an actor and I'm taking a head shape and we're having a conversation, I always have that conversation about hair texture, because just because you have a woman of color or a man of color, I always refer to women because they're generally wigged more than the men are, what their preference is. Because just because I have a black woman in my chair, it doesn't mean she wants natural hair, that she wants textured hair. I've had actresses say, I don't want that. I want European hair. And depending on what the situation is, I might try to convince them otherwise. But if it's okay for the character and it's that preference, then that's their preference. They have to feel comfortable, Yeah. I love it. Along with that, it comes then also more educating your staff, because your staff might not be so well versed in natural hair. Though, again, people have really stepped on the bandwagon and are learning and have learned. But yeah, that's a whole nother layer of honoring the culture.
Right. Yeah. This is because I was just thinking of, I'm a big Bridgerton fan, and the woman who plays Queen Charlotte talked about on a talk show that when she started Bridgerton, it was the first time in her career, and she's been doing this for such a long period of time, that someone actually asked her about the texture of her hair, and that the texture of her hair would be taken into consideration with the wigs that were going to be built for her in the movie, in the TV show. So it is changing.
It is changing. So it needs to change more, but it's changing, yeah.
So what would you say to a young person who watches this and says, that sounds like something I might be interested in? What is that path?
It's kind of hard to say, to be honest with you, other than reach out. People reach out to me all the time, whether it's on Instagram, or they've got my email from my website, or a friend or whatever, and they say, hey, I'm interested in this. That's the first thing. People have to know. Not only do we as an industry need to know you're there, but you also need
to let us know.
To let us know, right, in a way too. So how do you do that? And the best way really is to, if you think you're interested, is to reach out. One of the things that's so great about what we're talking about for the Design Expo is that people can come and have actual access to you. And that's something that within that I'm really looking forward to, because once you have just that encouragement and that contact, it's just what pushes you along.
But are there specific things, like you started going to beauty school is what they call it. What do they call it now? I know they don't call it beauty school now.
Well, I think
it used to be cosmetology school. Now it's called something else.
It's something like image enhancement.
There you go. There you go. I knew that it had evolved. But would you recommend that they go to something like that? Or are there any internships available? Not just within our industry, but within like people who are interested in hair and makeup. And we spoke with Mia Neal, who talked about, she worked at MAC. And then someone at MAC actually did the Juilliard 2-year program where they take like 2 people in a year. and she ended up, for a lot of really funny reasons, applying and getting it, right? But I'm talking about, is there anything for like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old? You know, they have all these high school summer programs for musical theater, for example, at all the different institutions. What do they have for hair and makeup or hair design, wig design? Is there anything?
I mean, outside of really Juilliard or different universities that offer like wig making classes, I don't really know that there is one, to be honest with you.
It's going to change.
Aware.
It's going to change, David Brian Brown. You heard it here, y'all. David Brian Brown is going to change this. Not just David Brian Brown, but we're going to work together to change that.
No. I think, you know, whether it's BTU's involvement or it's somebody else's, I think that there's a place for it and there's a need for it. And again, the Design Expo, it sounds like I'm just plugging it, but I am, you know what I mean? And obviously it's still in the works and what it's going to be and whatnot. But to have a platform for people to even just go onto BTU and find references of, these are people you can contact if you're interested. You know, David Brian Brown, his email. People are only going to be like something like on BTU are only going to have their information there if they're willing to share themselves. Right. So you're not going to go unanswered. And I mentor people privately. Other people do that as well. But in terms of organized, and I've done that by people just reaching out to me. People just saying, hey, so-and-so gave me your number, and I would really like to learn what this industry is about. And honestly, they come in sometimes, people come in and they're like, oh yeah, no.
This isn't for me. Or the opposite.
Absolutely. Absolutely. More the opposite. You know, because they've shown an interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because access is, once again, it's about access to someone, to something. And that's why we want to be a part of working with all the designers to create these pipelines so that it's not just, you know, this is the first step, right? Which is to see something in these YouTube little mini documentaries on what you do, your path, your journey, what that is. But then there are other things that we're thinking about, like, you know, maybe there is a career day where we go to a high school or a trade school and say, this is what, you know, you bring something, or this is what I do, right? Because there has to be multiple ways in which we are reaching out and not just expecting them to find us.
No, absolutely. And you also have to, I have done outreach programs in different schools because people don't know that, in particular, my job,
in particular, yes,
my job exists. And whether that be a hairdresser on the staff or a supervisor or a designer, people don't even, I didn't realize they really existed when I got into it. It was like, oh yeah, I'll go work at the opera. Oh yeah, I'll apprentice at the opera. And then I discovered this whole world that I didn't know existed. So outreach from, like, my union, Local 798, does do an outreach program. And they also, we also are a part of, actually I said I didn't know anything. And my union and myself are part of a program called Real Works.
That's what I was wanting you to talk about. You pretended like you didn't know what I was saying. Would you please talk about this program, please? I was like, okay.
Really? Yeah. So Real Works is an organization that initially started out with they had a program it was for the film industry, and it was for specifically directing. And it was being brought to the teenagers. So in high school, and they were given the opportunity to work with like major directors and whatnot, and learn the industry. And it's become really successful. All the big studios are behind it. My union, Local 798, hair and makeup union, reached out to them and said, would you consider doing a program with us? And so they said, yes, they would. I think we've done four 4 sessions now. They've just announced a new one, actually. And there are, I think we have 12 spots for each class, or for each training. And it lasts for 3 months. It's twice a week. And it totally, every time, every class is an introduction to the industry. And whether that being how to fill out a time card if you're working on a film, or what the rules of the union are, or how to set and come out a wig for 1950s. It's divided between hair and makeup. So there are, one program is specifically for hair, one is specifically for makeup. And it is like highly successful.
And this is high school, or are these
now for people, this you have to be a licensed hairdresser, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to be in the industry already.
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of outreach for a younger group of people, it doesn't. The information is important, but you can't train somebody to be a hairdresser if they're haven't got this a little bit of skill already.
Right.
Though there are people in our industry who only do wigs. But you also need to have a license now to get into our union. And that's the other aspect of it. To work in our industry, ultimately you really need to be licensed, because you need that license. It's part of the requirement to join the union.
Okay, so this is through your union 798?
798.
So if someone wanted to find out about this program, they're out there and let's say they're working in a salon, doing hair in a salon, they're licensed, but they want to move into the film, television, into that industry. How do they find out about this program, this initiative?
I want to say that it's on our website. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I know it is on RealWorks website.
Okay, so would you give that to us to put on our hub?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's on our hub. So it'll be to is creating a hub where all these different initiatives, scholarships, grants, fellowships will be. You can find it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's a good program because it also introduces you, because it's over like this 3 months period and it's every weekend. Every class is taught by somebody in the industry that's different. So along with the education, you're getting to meet me or somebody else who's working in the industry already and can help you along. Though the program does not place you. So it's just education, information. It in no way will place you, but it gives you the opportunity and the exposure to then do with it what you will, and whether that's then reach out to me. It does. You do maintain a mentorship. You're attached to a mentor at the end of the program, so you always have somebody to reach out to.
Great.
But if I'm your mentor, it's not my responsibility to get you a job. It's my responsibility to guide you through your life at that time. You know what I mean? But if you're good, the possibilities of getting work or getting referrals through your mentor or any of the teachers or anybody you've met, in that program is great.
Yeah. So we have the opportunity to introduce people outside of this industry to the industry through this program. They get to work with people who are in the industry. Have you seen that this is increasing the amount of diversity that exists within?
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
That's important.
I think that I would say that just in terms of like the whole program that we did, I would say, half to 3/4 are working in the industry.
Yeah.
So I think that is a decent amount for that program.
Right.
Some people were like, I don't want to work 6 days a week. I don't want to do 8 shows a week. I don't want to work at night. I want to have more flexibility. Or I don't want to do a film, and I really don't want to get up at 3:30 in the morning and work in a swamp all day. And, but that's good. Listen, it's good to find out what you want and what you don't want, or what you like and what you don't like.
Speaking of these things, you've gone from, you started in theater mostly, yes, but you have branched out into television and film as well. How did that transition happen?
Mostly through my mentor, Roy Helen. Roy Helen. So I have worked with him mostly on things, or because of him on things. I personally do not enjoy doing film work.
Because of that 3:30 in the morning call?
Because I don't like and if it's your career choice, it's your life. So if you're making your livelihood in film, that's your life. You have no life, because at 2 to 3 months at a time, you're working like crazy hours. You're working overnight, and I don't like that lifestyle. So theater. So I've worked it, and I have enjoyed what I've done. But they've always been also special projects and things I really wanted to do. But theater is, I love theater. I love everything about it.
And the 8 shows a week doesn't bother you?
What's that?
The 8 shows a week. Well, now because you're a wig designer. See, when I met you, you were there 8 times a week. Now, as the wig designer, you design the show, and then you move on, and then you upkeep the show. So I know, like, you do Frozen. So every time there's a new production somewhere, you fly off and and do what you do as a designer. So it's a different kind of experience. What about TV? TV doesn't seem like film, where it's like, but because you have, it's 5 days a week, maybe, or.
Yeah, I mean, TV is, again, it just depends on what it is. Sometimes TV can be worse than a film schedule, because they really try to cram a lot in. So it really depends on the setup. I mean, I don't like TV either, but I have very limited experience in TV. It's more film or theater.
And so what is it that why are you so passionate about theater and designing for the theater? Why is that the thing that you're excited about?
Well, I love people.
Yes.
So I like working. I like working with, different people all the time. And again, I like the challenge, and especially as a designer, which is really what I consider myself. So when I speak more as a designer. I love the challenges that are presented within a show. I love the research that's in the show. I like that it's live, it's just, to me, it's such a creative, positive situation and career. I feel super, super fortunate that I get to do what I do. And I love what I do. Even when it's hard. And that's the thing. If you love what you do, no matter what it is, it's not work.
Yeah. And so, last question. So why is diversity important? Why is it that within your field there should be more diversity amongst the people that are designing wigs or who are supervising shows? Why is that important?
Well, obviously representation. And in the world that we live in, it hasn't, representation of the Black and brown world has not been very good. And we also have the education on Black hair, on textured hair, has not been good. I mean, when I went to beauty school, I didn't learn anything about Black hair. There wasn't even a Black person in my school. In my school, Italian girls ruled. You know what I mean? And so as our industry as a whole started changing more, and so we had more actors of color that were coming in, because even when I started in the industry, to have like one black woman and one black man, that was like it in a show.
That was the standard, yeah.
Yeah, and you could have a chorus of 20 people. So as that started to change, the imbalance just became so much more because there were those of us, or many of us, who didn't really know how to work with black hair. And at the time, it was you also didn't really have, you can't work with specific hair, or you can't do a certain craft no matter what it is, you're not going to get good at it, right? Or you're not going to understand it. So it's taken, because it's in process, a long time to get that education, to get that understanding. And I think that even though, again, they could be much better, the casting has changed so much now. And so it's not okay, really, for me to say, oh, I can't do your hair. Do it yourself. It's just not okay anymore. And that's fair enough. I mean, if you come to me as an actor and, I'm cutting a white man's hair, let me say, and you walk in and you're like, hey, David, can you clean me up? And I say, no, you know what, you can just go to your own barber. You might be happy about that, actually, because you love your barber. Right. But it's also not fair that you don't have the option of getting done in the room.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
And I also think that even just honesty, I mean, people don't know how to do all types of hair. And sometimes it also just takes that honesty and say, I don't do that, but I'm going to hook you up. Not send you away, but hook you up. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, it's just what has to happen.
So it seems like it's more than just the incredible skill of, wig design and what has to happen with hair for all cast members, but it's also a shift in culture. It's a shift in understanding of, if we are moving forward, and we are, there's lots more work to be done. But if we're going to be diversifying casts and looking at what we're putting on the stage as being a representation of the world in which we live, then that's not just putting the actor out there. It's the totality of our industry has to go, how are we supporting this change that we're making? And what does that mean in terms of how we talk about bodies in costume fittings? How are we talking about hair design and textured hair and what you have to do to keep your hair up during an 8-show week? All of those things. And those conversations seem to be happening now. And I think it's important for some young kid sitting at home who looks like me to see this video and to say, instead of counting themselves out, because they don't believe that there's a space for them there. But to hear this conversation and know that this is ongoing and that it is not fixed or solved and we have not come into a perfect world, but to know that it is changing. And if it is something that you think you want to do or it sparks your interest, here are the ways in which you can see if that flame can, expand, right? So that's what we want to do with this designer series.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to you, and having known you for so long and known that you have been on the forefront of these conversations and doing the work long before it was being done by the industry, but also being a leader in this and continuing to make sure that we are creating an industry where everyone can feel seen and welcomed and know that they have the support to do the work that they want to do.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you, David Brown.
Well, I appreciate you, Michael McElroy.
So thank you for joining us today. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube series, right? Because we're going to have lots of wonderful designers across all the fields of design, right? And so you want to know about that because there may be something that sparks your interest. And once you subscribe, there's that little notification bell. Click that so that you can be the first to get all the new videos that are coming out in the series. And for all of the information about what we're doing at Black Theater United, you can always log on to www.blacktheaterunited.com. That's all for today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Black Theater United, creating pipelines for you, the future of our industry.